All right, so we just discussed segmentation and targeting, which are basically part of the critical decisions on how we decide decide the target markets. Okay. Right. So the next slides are basically explanation of each of them: undifferentiated, differentiated, concentrated, or niche marketing strategy, and micro marketing. Okay. Now this is just briefly about how we can what are the things that we need to consider in terms of in terms of target market that we want to aim at. Okay. And okay, the next thing I'd like to discuss is the value proposition, which is basically reflecting the overall positioning strategy. Okay, overall positioning strategy is the value proposition, and actually, value proposition is defined as a set of benefits that we promise for the customers. Right now, the benefits that we offer for the customers definitely will be judged by the customers based on the price as well. Okay, therefore, some scholars suggest we also need to consider price by benefits. All right. In other words, the concept value proposition is actually the ratio between the price or the amount of money that the customer spend and the benefit that they will acquire from our product or service. Okay. Or those who like mathematical symbols, value proposition is actually the comparison between price and benefits. Okay. Oh, hang on a second. Let me just check. Oh yeah, sure. All right, you can ask that here, or you can send me in the chat box. I'll attend to the question. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm happy to ask it here. Thank you for that. Just before we go too much into the positioning strategy, apologies everyone, just wanted to clarify something.
Yep.
Around market segmentation or creating a target market, you mentioned earlier, based on your experience, there's around about 6 to 8 different segments in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
I just need some clarity to cement my understanding of market segmentation. Is it any variables from each of those 4 segmentations, the geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioural we discussed? Is it any mix or blend of variables from those 4 categories that you choose to then say that is my target market? Or how do you come up with only 6 to 8 when there are so many variables within each segment?
Right. Okay. Well, that's actually a good question. Okay. Actually, when we conduct market research, okay, to reveal market segments, we actually ignore the guys who we think that will not be able to reach them in any way. Okay, so we ignore those guys. So out of 24 million people, let's say if we are in biscuit industry or chocolate bar industry, we'll ignore babies, for instance, or children, who are still, start using solid and so on and so forth. Okay, so we ignore those guys. Okay, so we only focus on certain group. Okay, now those 6 to 8 market segments are basically the guys who, with any 4 segmentation variables, all right, show similarities in terms of need as well. Okay, remember, the 4 segmentation variables are basically stepping stone for us to understand that further. Okay, in my own practice, actually, I also use what I call as need states segmentation analysis. Okay, segmentation analysis. Okay, so but that need state is also linked to the 4 segmentation variables. Okay, now how does it work? First, in the focus group discussion, we actually try to find out what attributes that customers think important in certain industry. If it is biscuit, then we ask them what are important in biscuits. Okay, either price, benefit, or whatever. Okay, and then we ask them to cluster the current products. Based on that, we can actually reveal what they need. Okay, we cluster them based on the needs. Okay, now as mentioned before, there are several things. I think I'll also mention that if you use any single variable such as the geographic or demographic, you may not be able to find really different a variable that is really differentiating the customers. Okay, for instance, people who are from the same group, 25 to 35, for instance, may have different needs. Okay, so when we say that we are launching a new car, a new car brand, for instance, okay, who is our target market? If you only use one single variable like demographic, for instance, it may not be able to help us to determine our target market behavior specifically. Okay, let's say if we say 25 to 35 is our target market, well, people who are at the age of 25 to 35 may not select our brand. Okay, they have different interests. Okay, they may not have the same interest. Okay, but if we start with understanding the need of the customers, okay, the need of the customers, okay, we'll come up with a more a stronger differentiator. Okay, in any market, in my experience in Asia Pacific region, in any market, you'll always have customers who are in the budget needs. Okay, or economy segment. Okay, you always find it in any market, in any industry, right? As far as my experience goes. Okay, and on the opposite side, you'll always find the guys who who want something premium or top tier. Okay, I want branded. I want something branded, for instance. Okay, now the other thing, there are 6 other market segments. Okay, in between those two. Okay, depending on the industry. Okay, now these two are basically related to your 4 segmentation variables. Okay, you can relate them back to the 4 segmentation variables. Okay, because again, as I mentioned to you before, the 4 segmentation variables are the stepping stone before you use the other approach. Okay, 4 segmentation variables. Okay, so the budget economy, well, you can have a look. Let's say if you look at Sydney or Melbourne, for instance, you can have a look. From geographic perspective, which one is the normally have strong market segments from budget perspective, okay, and which one is more to the premium or upscale type of customers, for instance, okay, from geographic perspective. From demographic perspective, that tells you as well. The guys who have the need on budget, for instance, normally have income probably within their certain range, for instance. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is basically if you start with the need state segmentation, you'll normally come up with the 6 to 8 market segments across the industry, and the 2 popular market segments are basically the budget or economy market segment. The other one is premium or top tier market segment. In between, you have the variations such as the guys who are on control. Well, I want to look smart. Okay, I want to look smart. I'm not cheap, right? I want to buy something that is beneficial for me, right? I don't want to spend. If I can spend $100 to get the same results, why do I have to spend $200, right? Virgin Airlines used to aim at that market segment, right? When they just first launched a Virgin Airlines, they ran the campaign. Well, if you fly from Sydney to Melbourne and you have to spend $120, $130, $150, we only offer $95, right? You will still land in the same Melbourne on the same planet. Okay, so they actually aim at a smart segment or control segment. Okay, these guys basically want to be under control, for instance. Okay, there are also you'll also find in any product category a group of customers who are basically in that kind of need state as well. Okay, so to answer to your question, when I say 6 to 8 market segments, you group them based on need stage. Okay, now based on the need stage, okay, the large group of needs, you'll find 6 to 8 market segments, and and you can relate them back to 4 segmentation variables. Okay, have I answered your question?
Thank you, Eddie, and thanks everyone for that.
Yeah, is that okay, or you still need some more?
No, look, that's okay. I think it's a matter of going back and digesting all of that as well afterwards, and just playing around with a few examples. But I think what you're saying is considering the purpose of the organisation, why you think you exist, what value you're delivering for customers, trying to match what your value is to customer needs, and then going back and saying, okay, of those needs, these are the types of people, and these are the types of locations or behaviours that we think fit our offering.
Correct. Okay, and in saying that, as I mentioned as well before, when it comes to geographic, demographic, and so on and so forth, sometimes the variable is not determinant in that industry. I gave an example in bottled water, for instance. Gender may not be, significant variable in there. Okay, so you discount it. Yes, we have 4 segmentation variables. I see that your point that we should have a lot of permutations in there. Why can we only generate 6 to 8 market segments? Well, the fact is those 4 segmentation variables are from the marketer's perspective in terms of grouping the customers. But in real life, the customers making decision based on their need. Okay, so whether it is male, female market, if they have the same need, then we can't split them into 2 different market segments. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Right.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay. So if you look at the this value proposition again, there are 9 based on price and benefits. We have 9 categories in here. Okay, we have 9 options that we can select. Okay, but I need to highlight to you that the ones in the middle are basically the losers. Okay, it's hard to win the competition if we offer the same benefit with higher price. Okay, it's hard to win the competition if we have less benefit with higher price, for instance. Okay, the other 5 are basically giving us the opportunity to win. Okay, more for more, for instance, more for the same, more for less, the same for less, and less for much less, like the dollar shop, for instance. Okay, or the reject shop. They are offering something less, but with a much less price as well. Okay. More for more, you can look at in the olden days, BMW and Mercedes were fighting to be in the premium positioning. For instance, I'm offering something premium, and then Ferrari came in. Hey, you guys are not that premium. I'm much more premium. Okay, I'm offering something more than that. Okay. More for less, for instance, you can also look at Lexus, for instance. Okay, well, you guys offering that. Okay, I can also offer the same thing, but with less price. Why less price? Because my overhead cost is also absorbed by Toyota. Toyota worldwide has strong volume in the market, so that helps me absorbing my costs. Okay, now either one that you're using, that you adopt in your business, the option that you adopt in your business, you got to think about the pluses and minuses. Okay, the key point in here is, have you got the capability to manage that business or not? Okay, all right, guys. I believe that we have ever seen we have seen the Aldi's advertising campaign. Did you have a chance to look at the 4 links that I posted in the discussion forum?
Not yet, Eddie. There's a lot to get through.
Okay. Right. If you look at Aldi, okay, which one that you think they adopt out of these 5 options?
Knowing Aldi and how they operate, more for less.
More for less?
Definitely. Aldi is all about cheap food.
Right.
And lots of it, which the German market loves.
Right, fair enough. Sorry, what was that? What's the other?
It's interesting. Sorry guys. It's interesting because what Barb said there, they do offer a lot of variety at different times because they'll have different promotion things coming through. But I think the majority of consumers might go there because they feel they're getting the same for less. So it's probably a combination.
I think you're right there. I don't know that their variety is that great, actually. I refuse to step foot inside their shops, but is it a huge variety? Or I know it's all about the cheapest possible forms of production. That's the reason I can't support them, because that usually means farmers aren't remunerated properly or animals are treated really badly. So I don't know. Do they have? Oh, Eddie, you just got to watch the videos in Europe of how the chickens, the eggs and the chickens are farmed in Europe to provide them to Aldi at that price. But I don't know, do they have a large range?
Well,
I don't know.
Ed actually has mentioned to us their tagline or slogan is like brands, but we are cheaper. Okay, so
The same for less.
The 4 YouTube links, or they are actually that I posted, are basically about Aldi's advertising campaign, and you'll be able to find that actually one of 2 campaigns basically show they're cheaper, right? Like the toast, for instance. Well, you only need to spend $2 with Aldi. If you go to a national brand, if you buy national brand at Woolies and Coles, you should spend around $5 to get a raisin toast. But with us, you only need to spend $2. The same thing for wrap campaign. For instance, the aluminum wrap campaign with the Mammoth. Okay, you'll spend with national brand, you'll spend around $6, but with Aldi, you only spend a bit more than $1, for instance. Okay, so you still fill up your stomach with toast, with raisin toast, but with less price. Okay, so that's basically the focus of these guys. Okay, now please bear in mind about the Aldi value proposition, because that's one that we'd like to elaborate as well in our discussion tonight, understanding positioning and link to marketing mix variables. Okay, all right, now let's move on. Yes, we have made decision about the value proposition. The next thing that we need to decide is the positioning. Okay, this is what we mean by positioning: the way the product is defined by consumers based on its important attributes. Okay, or in other words, it is the place the product occupies in the consumer's mind relative to the competition. Okay, or in brief, positioning is actually the battle in the consumer's mind. Finding a specific word that consumers will associate us to. Okay, so that is actually positioning. Okay, in other words, again, positioning is actually the promise that we want to convey for the customers. It is the promise that we want to deliver for the customers. Okay, promise that we want to deliver, or the promise that we do not want to deliver. Okay, therefore, positioning is actually 2 sides of a coin. Okay. On one side, we say this is the thing that we promise to deliver to you. On the other side, we actually telling the customers we are not going to deliver the others, right? So it is a trade-off, okay, that we actually try to decide, and the customers also need to make the trade-off decision. Okay, right. So what do I mean by that? Look. Again, as mentioned to you before, let's say for argument's sake, this world we can on this planet we can split the customers based on 2 types of segment: the budget segment and the premium segments. Okay, so if we select that we want to be in budget segment, okay, we are actually telling the customers we are not going to offer you with premium quality, with premium brand thing, with premium packaging, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the customers are making that decision as well. Okay, and if we select that our positioning would be something for the premium market, okay, we actually telling the customers, hey guys, we are premium. Okay, we promise to deliver something premium for you: premium quality, premium brand, premium service, and so on and so forth. The customer service should be, we design the customer service team to be excellent, for instance, to deliver that positioning strategy. Okay, on the other side, if the customers decide to buy us, they're actually making decision. It is not going to be cheap. Okay, this is the promise that we are not going to deliver. Okay, it is not going to be cheap, right? They have to have deep pockets when they come to us because we offer something premium. Okay, you can contrast Emirates and Tiger Airways, for instance. Emirates Airways and airline and Tiger, for instance. You can contrast those 2, or Ryanair. Okay, in Europe. Right. So that's positioning in a nutshell. Okay. Now, you can play the video yourself later on. So it has to differentiate ourselves in the consumer's mind, like these two guys here, BMW and VW. Okay, if we are not offering something different or unique in the customer's mind, if we do not capture unique position in the consumer's mind, then we are actually trapped into me-too position. Okay, is that wrong? Well, look, it is fine. It's just you are actually you need to prepare a price war, because you're trying to offer something the same. You promise the same thing for the customers, and if you're the latecomer, you are actually helping your competitors promoting that that value for the customers. Okay, if you come to the market at the same time with your competitor, you need to prepare a price war with the consumer, because for the consumers, because it's for consumers to make decision. You know, everything is just the same except the other thing, which is basically the price. Okay? Right, now to come up with the positioning strategy, we actually need to decide the differentiation strategy. What do we mean by the differentiation? It is actually differentiating the market offering so we can gain competitive advantage. What do you mean by competitive advantage? This is what we mean by competitive advantage. Okay, offering greater value through lower price, or providing more benefit to justify higher prices. Okay? There are 5 variables of differentiation, like product differentiation. Here we focus on the features, the performance, the style, the design. If you look at Apple, for instance, they design their product, in a certain way, with sleek design, nice color, and the certain operating system, the iOS, which is quite unique. Okay, with the strong battery power, for instance, and so on and so forth. That's product differentiation. Okay. Service differentiation is actually about how the service is delivered through speedy, convenient, and careful delivery. Okay, if you go back to Apple, we expect them to offer, strong customer service when we come to the store. For instance, we expect someone to greet us, and so on and so forth, and deliver the service for us in a convenient way. Okay. Channel differentiation is about how we cover the customers, the channels coverage, okay, through and also showing the expertise and performance in terms of covering customers. Okay, in the case of Apple again, they have the Apple Store. They also have the online store, and they work with the retailers as well as a differentiation. Okay, now in Sydney. Samsung knows that one of the things that they also need to do is to try to catch up with Apple, so that they open a Samsung store, just the opposite of Apple Store in the city, in Sydney CBD. Okay, people differentiation is actually about hiring and training better people than their competitors. Okay, if you go back to Apple again, they have they have the Apple Genius Bar, who helps the customers, troubleshooting with the device, bring the device, make the appointment, and so on and so forth. Okay, they also offer online chat, online help, and so on and so forth to help the customer solving the problem. And image differentiation is actually about how what the image that we convey for the customers. Again, if you look at the Apple, it's the innovation that they try to build, the image of being innovative that they build in the customer's mind. Okay? Right, so they're the variables of differentiation. Now, the other scholars also suggest price as the differentiation. So if you look at Aldi or Walmart, for instance, they use EDLP, everyday low price, which is basically having strong focus on price as a differentiator, right? Yet we offer the same thing. Whatever product that the competitors have, either they have raisins, they have 200 gram or whatever it is, right? We also have the same thing, but we are cheaper. Okay. All right. Now, this is the thing in terms of creating a positioning strategy. I would strongly recommend you to draw a positioning map. My positioning map is actually a bit simple, probably. In real life, you have multiple variables, multiple attributes to map the brands in the consumer's mind, or at least you have two dimensions like this. Okay, if this is if you look at this one here, we have Coke, Pepsi, and Solo. There are two attributes only in here: social acceptability and sweetness. If you haven't launched a solo, if you look at that, the circle, the size of the circle reflects the size of business. Coke is the leader from social acceptability image perspective, while Pepsi is the leader in sweetness perspective. Okay, so if we haven't launched a solo and we say we want to be social acceptable, for instance, well, we are competing with Coke. Can we offer something better than Coke? If we can, then yes, we should be in here. Okay, so we redefine the term social acceptability. Okay, we need to be able to redefine what we mean by social acceptability. Like Ferrari, when they came into the market, they redefined the concept of premium driving. Okay, to show that they are better than BMW and Mercedes. Okay, and if they say, well, I want to be in the most in terms of sweetness, then they are going to compete with another global brand. Okay, so probably the safest one is to be in here because it is still unique for solo. Okay, now for you guys, you can look at a number of variables for your positioning map. You can look at price and quality, for instance. Okay, you can also look at the other attribute. Oops, sorry. You can also look at the other attributes in terms of your positioning map. Look, I'll leave it to you as long as it is still related to the customer's need. Ideally, you relate that to the attribute to customer's need. If you use price, high price, low price, quality, high quality, low quality, for instance, and then you map your brands and the competitor's brand. Okay. Since it is chocolate industry, you can relate to a broad consumer needs such as health or taste and so on. So I'll leave it to you. Okay. Right. So that's the first step, positioning map. Okay. This is an example that shows more variables here: price, high price, low price, high quality, low quality, about hypothetical perceptual mapping. Okay, so please use it when you design your positioning strategy. Okay. Okay. So we have got the positioning map. The next thing that we need to do is a positioning statement. Okay, a positioning statement is actually a statement that summarizes company or brand positioning. Okay, how do we write it? Now, if you look at that, this is the formula for us to write a positioning statement. To what target market, with what need, our brand is what concept that we want to promise, that's supported with this point of difference. Okay, or in other words, in a nutshell, it is actually to whom you're what. Okay, now you may recall that time in the job interview, you may have that first question from the interviewer. Okay, tell me about yourself. Well, in the first 5-10 seconds, you got to tell to whom you're what. To this future employer, I'm this kind of person. I'm this kind of employee, for instance. So the same thing, right? We use the same. Thing. Okay. So please use this formula when you write your positioning statement. Okay. Right. So if we go back to Aldi, okay, we know what Aldi does. Okay. They offer, basically same thing like the other brands, and then they also, but they're cheaper. Okay, so who is the potential target market of Aldi?
Potentially lower socioeconomic, potentially large families. It might be quite diverse.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, is it safe if I say budget conscious people?
I think that's pretty safe.
Yeah. So budget, let's say it's budget conscious people. Yeah. Is that okay, guys? So what strategy that they adopt to meet the budget conscious people? They are affordable. Agree? They make their product affordable, okay, with the same offering as the national brands, okay. So with that, if we write a positioning statement for Aldi, the possible positioning statement for Aldi would be: to the budget conscious people, Aldi is affordable. Okay, well, you can make it more sexy if you like. If you do not like the word affordable, okay. And what is the point of difference? Well, we offer the same product, okay, similar products, but our price is cheaper than the national brands. Okay, now that's the possible positioning statement for Aldi. Yeah, everyone agrees with that? Everyone okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Okay, brilliant. All right, so that's Aldi's positioning statement. Okay, now let's have a look at the next one. Okay, the next thing that we need to look at is positioning requires our capability to deliver. Without capability to deliver, our positioning will not work. Okay, it is just dreaming. Okay, that will be the case of overpromise, under delivery. Okay, therefore we got to look at our capability, whether we can deliver the positioning or not. Now, in saying that, we also need to look at whether we can deliver. The positioning is actually aimed at the mind of the consumers, and from real life perspective, we are going to deliver the marketing mix variables for the customers. Okay, therefore, the marketing mix variables should support the positioning. Okay, so if you look at Aldi again, okay, the target market is budget conscious people. Okay, the positioning would be as we just discussed before too. The budget conscious people, we are affordable. Okay, we are affordable. Okay. Now let's look at their marketing mix variables. Okay, let's look at briefly the marketing mix variables. From product perspective, they offer less variety. Okay, the recent campaign that Aldi showed to us, basically that Aldi launch actually shows to us that they have less variety, and that is they claim it is the benefit for customers. Customers do not need to spend ages just to find the product that they want. Okay, from product service perspective, less variety. What else do they have? Well, they have no bag. Okay, they do not look. If you that reminds me, my wife actually used to be cranky with me. We went to Aldi and I forgot to bring our bag, and she asked me, well, "How are we going to carry them?" Okay, my fault. Okay, no bag. Okay. And from service perspective as well, the number of people on the floor is less. You'll find less people at Aldi rather than at Woolies and Coles. Okay. What's the other thing? Well, look, in terms of price, yes, it is affordable. Okay, they show that. Okay, that's the thing that they are trying to say. Okay, and placement. If you look at the size of the store, it is less. The size is less than Woolies and Coles because they need to maintain their operation to be affordable. Agree? Property cost in this business is, one of the major contributors to the cost. Right now, to manage that positioning, affordable positioning, okay, we have to have the capability. One of the critical capability in here is the low cost structure. Okay, so they manage that. Okay, now in terms of promotion, well, it is showing again affordable. Okay, so guys, hopefully that gives you a bit of illustration, which is basically the one that I posted in the discussion forum, that showing the positioning, which is basically core strategy of the business, to how we deliver that from a marketing mix perspective. Yeah. All right. Any comments so far?
Yes, Eddie, just on that, there's 5 Ps there, so it can't be the 4 Ps of marketing.
4. Yeah, 4 Ps. What's that? 5 Ps.
Positioning. That's not one of the Ps.
Okay. The reason I mentioned 4 Ps is basically the positioning is not a part of the marketing mix variables.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The marketing mix variables actually include 4 Ps or 7 Ps. Product plus promotion, and those who use 7 Ps basically add with the people, process, and physical evidence. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your comments. Yeah, thanks a lot.
No, because I'm taking notes, Eddie, because I'm going to write this assignment, and I'm sure I'll be talking about the 4 Ps.
Yeah, that's actually a fair question, actually. Yeah, why did I make it 4 Ps? Yeah, well, we have.
Yeah, it's definitely 4, because the positioning is about the 4 Ps.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Not part of the marketing mix. Okay. Right, now look, as mentioned before, the positioning needs to have the capability to support the positioning. In some instances, we may have more than one option to design our positioning strategy. Then we need to assess which one is more viable for us. Okay, so we can look at these two options, like say premium and budget, for instance. We can look at it from product price, place, promotion perspective. How easy that is to deliver each of them. Okay, and of course, the ones that is meeting the general assessment, the overall assessment is the one that we are going to proceed. Okay, or some people also use this kind of data. For instance, let's say we have premium and also budget positioning. We can assess that from market size perspective, market growth rate, profitability, the technology to compete, and the competitiveness in that industry, the investment, and overall attractiveness. Again, high, moderate, and low. Okay, right. So that's basically this session's topic, guys. Any questions?
No, thanks, Eddie.
No, thanks, Eddie.
All good.
We're good.
All right. Yeah. Look, guys.
Confidence, Bob.
Oh, I'm just hanging in there, Ed. I just go home every night and read a couple more pages and make notes in preparation for this.
Right.
There's so much. I must say, Eddie, there is so much information available to us. This has got to be the most informative online subject I've ever done. So thank you so much already. It's huge.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. All right. Well, if that's the case, then I'll see you next Tuesday with consumer behavior topic.
Thank you. See you on Tuesday. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.